The Golding Group Strategic Growth Podcast, formerly known as the Neo Marketing Podcast, offers real-world advice, expert analysis, and smart success strategies for entrepreneurs, investors, decision makers, and business leaders.
Episode 136, Lifetime Value.
This is all based on research.
There you go.
The first thing you got to do
Everything starts with research.
is find out what's valuable to your clients.
That's right. So let's clarify, because some people might hear research and they simply think of an academic, go look in the archives, go do your online searches, like just looking at data and numbers, hard numbers. But research also absolutely is talking to people.
Absolutely. Focus groups is
and
one of the main things.
The closer they are to the actual thing, whether it's a product, service, or the membership, your members and why they pay every year for their membership, or why someone buys your product, someone who puts their hard-earned money down, is the best resource for information about how to retain them and then attract the next person who is very similar to them for the same reasons.
Right.
That data mine of your members who you already have a relationship with is a phenomenal resource for research.
Absolutely.
So don't be intimidated by the term research. Episode 140, Misinformation, Malinformation, and Disinformation.
So let me just give a quick definition of each of those terms, because they're similar but they're different.
Okay, let's do it.
So misinformation is information that's misleading, erroneous, or false. Disinformation is a subset, certainly, but it's deliberately created or shared with the intention to misinform or mislead.
So the intent here is the key.
Intent is the key. Yes. That's right. Absolutely. And malinformation is that one step. That's enemy propaganda. Okay.
Right.
They are trying to be malicious with the information.
Is this like the Russians claiming that they went into Ukraine because of all the Nazis?
To save the Nazis, right? To get rid of the Nazis. And to save the Ukrainians.
To save the Ukrainians from the Nazis by bombing them out of existence. Episode 147, 5 additional strategies for crisis communication.
Out of the 5, the most important is communicating with your internal audience and putting them first.
Yes.
Not as an afterthought, because you don't want them to find out about what's going on in the media. You need
to come together on these situations and again, trying to address the needs of the victims, try to allay the situation, provide as much information as possible, as necessary as needed.
Yes.
Not everything, just what's needed. It's quick, concise, again, straight to the point. Focus on the victims, focus on the situation itself, and then finally your follow-up is how the situation is corrected and then attempted to be avoided in the future. If you're focusing on those things and keeping it simple, you're doing things in the right way.
Absolutely.
And these are just steps of doing that.
I absolutely agree. These are additional strategies that we should consider. And as we're responding, we also need to pay attention to statements telling folks what we're doing to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Yes.
I think that's a really important part of that. Those statements.
Any sort of acknowledgement, any sort of addressing victims, any sort of something that could be construed as an apology or an acceptance of blame if you are in fact wrong in the situation, will ring hollow if you stop there.
Right.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Not good enough.
Not going to do it.
Not good enough.
Just like our thoughts and prayers, right? You got to do better than that.
It's fine, and it's a starting place. And if you're not involved, thoughts and prayers are fine when you're 3,000 miles away and you're not involved in any way in the situation that's going on. Thoughts and prayers. I hope the human beings, the victims, can be consoled and come out whole out of these situations. You're involved. If you're the center of the firestorm, that is not nearly enough.
No,
sure, your condolences is fine. And sentence 1, you now have many paragraphs to follow up on that. Exactly what has happened, what can be done, addressing the victims, all of those things in those order, putting the human beings first, putting the situation, all types of victims, places, buildings, communities, etc., and then getting into what can be done, how can it be fixed, and how can we make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Yep, absolutely.
Episode 150, listening is the most important skill.
Listen.
I'm listening, sir. I know you're about to tell us some good stuff, and I'm listening.
Listen. It is, in my mind, if not the most important skill, one of the most important skills, and we don't do it very well.
A lot of people don't do it very well.
And I'm going to creep right up to the edge here, but I think this is a major issue in our society today too, is people do not listen.
Let's challenge the people.
There's a faction that thinks that if you don't agree with what I'm saying, I'll just shout louder.
That is 100% true and 100% disappointing.
Absolutely. Disappointing and destructive and
yes.
Not helpful
at all. It's the opposite of helpful.
And how well you listen has an impact on every part of your life.
100%.
We're going to try and constrain ourselves to business, but it's, relationships.
Yes.
If we were talking into break, it's your pets. Yeah. I mean, listening to your pets.
Yes, listening to everything around you. Everything around you can tell you things if you'll listen.
Absolutely. And so the one key way to improve that ability is a thing called active listening. I'm sure you've heard of it. I'm sure many of our folks
It makes perfect sense, right? Be active in your listening. You can't go wrong with that.
Absolutely. It's where you make a conscious effort not just to hear the words, but to comprehend the meaning.
Yes.
Of the whole thing.
Comprehension being the key.
Absolutely. You got to pay attention very carefully. That's the active part of the listening. Can't allow yourself to be distracted.
There are distractions everywhere, all the time. In business, we often call it noise.
Noise.
There's noise everywhere that is intentionally trying to distract you.
Absolutely. And the most egregious of that is formulating your counter argument before the speaker has finished speaking.
Right, because you're not listening to what they're saying. You're thinking about what you were going to say instead.
Yep. And I think on this podcast we model active listening.
Mm-hmm.
The step one is pay attention. Right?
How hard is that?
Well, people will tell you, I'm too poor to pay attention. Well, no.
That's the one thing you can pay, no matter how rich or poor you are, is you can pay attention.
Absolutely.
Episode 152, maximize decency and civility to build trust.
There are many paths to decency. There are many paths to civility. There are many paths to integrity. And Jim advises us that we should take advantage of every one of those pathways, as many of them as we possibly can.
All in, all the above.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree too. And so it's easy for us to measure how well we're doing. He calls this the true test of decency. And that's the intentional commitment to verbal, to written communication, to deeds, and to actions that fundamentally are positive. And then there's a list of characteristics that he talks about. And I just want to delve into that for a little bit.
That makes a lot of sense. And it covers a lot of ground there that should ultimately provide an approach to decency and a ingrained attitude about if you are being decent, if you are being civil, if you are being the example for others, hopefully maybe we can calm down some folks who are heated and folks who maybe were going to go down the path of let's go get in a fight. Maybe we can convince them let's just have a conversation instead.
Let's have and tolerance is a joke today.
Yeah.
I mean, the supposed tolerant people are so totally intolerant that, it really is tearing the fabric of our society, I think.
And when the approach is that to keep people from saying things, because you might disagree, you might hurt someone's feelings, might not be appropriate, political correctness and things of that nature, and 20 years ago, people were saying political correctness is going to cause trouble. Well, here's the payoff. Yeah. That approach, don't let people talk. Don't let people say these things. Don't let them think these things.
Right.
That's the counter antithesis to how you get people to understand that if they have theories that are outside the norm, if you will, the only way you can bring them back towards the norm or have any sort of collaboration or change people's opinions that might be foul is to have conversations with them. And they have to be able to express themselves before you can say, well, here's a counter argument or here's a balance or here's a different experience that you can add to that might change your opinion or overall view of something that you find unfavorable, etc.
We had a earlier podcast on listening, and that's absolutely critical to this whole thing. But today, if you don't agree with what somebody says or thinks or lives,
right,
you just shout louder,
right?
You know, and that is, you're right. That is the antithesis of decency. That's the antithesis of civility, right?
Episode 158, Embracing Change, plus new office and podcast studio update. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Strategic Growth Podcast. I am Kyle Golding, your host, flying solo today. My usual co-host and business partner, Pritch Pritchard, is spending some time with the family. Well-deserved time off. He has earned it for sure. Today, I'm in the new podcast studio. Hopefully, it sounds great. Hopefully, when you're listening to the audio, it sounds exactly how you expect it to. It's going to look a little bit different on the video, on the YouTube channel, and on the social media, that's for sure. We have changed a lot of things, and so I want to talk to you today about embracing change, about the opportunity to grow, to be successful, to do all kinds of things that we find to be positive comes from embracing change. Not just changing when things happen to you, but actually actively making change. So I'm going to have that conversation with you. Then I will explain the new podcast studio in the new office, why we moved, etc. So let's talk off the top here. There's a concept that we work with a lot at the Golden Group, and I'm going to read this to you, and then I'm going to come back and break down each one of these sentences. It's only 5 sentences here, so follow along with me on the concept of change. Embracing change is an opportunity. Opportunity leads to potential success. Challenging yourself and your business means getting outside your comfort zone, personally and professionally, and then smart risk, not wild, not too safe, but risk with a desired outcome. That's idea number 5. So let's go right back to the top. Embracing change is an opportunity. I use the word embracing very specifically because often a lot of people think of change that is something that's forced upon you. I think COVID-19 is a great example of all the changes we had to make in business and personal life, in society, etc., that was forced upon us. That wasn't something we chose to do or had the ability to not do. The current economic situation, supply chain issues, unemployment numbers, all kinds of things like this are things that are typically outside of our control in the business world and are changes pushed upon us. When you have a new competitor enter your market, when you have different regulations, different laws, different things change that will affect your business, tax code, all kinds of things can force change upon you. And how you adapt to that change, how you adapt to finding a different supplier if supply chain issue is the thing. If you had to stop doing business with certain countries because of tariffs, if you had to supplement or change the way you hire people and the way you retain employees because of low unemployment, the great resignation, all kinds of things, factors like that, remote work, etc., how you adapted to those situations that were forced upon you, how you dealt with the change, how you made changes in order to react to the reality. That was number 1. You want to make those changes so that you can continue doing what you do and continue to running the company in the way that's beneficial for you. But you also have an opportunity. And that's the second sentence. Opportunity leads to potential success. Change is an opportunity. And embracing change, the reason the word embracing is so important here, embracing change is, again, not just dealing with changes that are thrust upon you by outside factors, but actually creating change yourself. You know, there's a lot of people who like to adhere to the old adage that if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And I don't agree with that. If it's not broke, you could still make it better. Just because it's performing doesn't mean it's performing at peak. There may be something that is working well, that is profitable, that is beneficial, that has great ROI, that if you were to continue to make additional changes might make 2x or 10x or 20x or 100x that ROI. It might be even more productive, even more beneficial to your business. It also might create a byproduct or let you learn information or collect data that you weren't previously that will also be beneficial to your business. So embracing change, challenging yourself to always change in good ways, in beneficial ways, to move, to grow, to develop, to be better, to systemize. All these things are changes you can make on a regular basis to what you're already doing, even if it's successful, especially if it's successful, because you have an opportunity to take something successful and make it even more successful. So don't just react to the changes necessary because outside factors has caused something. You absolutely have to do that. And essentially, successful businesses are the ones who best adapt to the changes forced upon them. Best adaptation is going to win every time. The second best opportunity to win, the second biggest opportunity for you, is creating change that's beneficial because you have a continual mindset of development and growth and improvement. So embrace change, because change is an opportunity to get better, to grow, to expand, to do something different, and that different might be better, might be more beneficial, might be more profitable, might have a better return on investment, etc. So don't be afraid of change. When change is thrust upon you, it's often very stressful, but react in a way that this is an opportunity, the mindset of an opportunity, and then embrace it and engage it as an opportunity. Embracing change is an opportunity. That opportunity leads to success, potential success. Now, not every change creates an opportunity that's successful. A lot of changes don't work out. Some of them dead end, some of them become negative. But positive change is an opportunity within itself. That opportunity, the collection of the opportunity, the capitalization of the opportunities, the taking action on an opportunity, putting yourself in the best position, putting everything in place in order to capitalize on the opportunities that came about from change. It doesn't matter how change arrived to you, but capitalizing on the opportunities that come with it is how you create potential success. I said earlier, the best business is going to be the one who best handles change, because business is continual change. Things change on a regular basis. Things are always developing, adding to the factors change on a regular basis. It even changes from quarter to quarter, from season to season, from your primary to your secondary audiences. All these things can have major changes in them. Again, the competitive landscape, all kinds of things can be felt as change. How you deal with those changes is how you create opportunities and you ultimately become successful. The people who deal with change the best are always the most successful. The most successful people always deal with change in the best ways.
Thanks for listening to the Golding Group Strategic Growth Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Tell a friend, leave a review, and engage with us on social media. To contact us, please visit thegoldinggroup.com.